Hi, I'm the Gadget Guru Andy Parr, and you're watching TheVOG.net. I'm here at Best Buy Victory in Fort Pierce, Florida, where it is a gorgeous late March day. Now, the temperature's here only in the 60s right now, and I gotta tell you, unbelievable for this time of the year. No humidity, a bit of a breeze, and speaking of breezes, look what the wind kicked in. You might recognize this guy from his great European adventures. This is UK Paul, who happened to be visiting the US, came down to Florida, and I just want to say welcome. Now, first question is, what brought you to this side of the pond?
I'd never been to the US before, ever. And I came over here because my wife was working. She's been working off and on 2-3 weeks at a time, then a gap, 3 more weeks. What happened was that Bike Week was approaching. I wanted to come out to Bike Week. So not only is she working, she brought me along with her, which was great.
So what events or how many days did you spend at Bike Week?
I only spent a couple of days at Bike Week. It didn't tie in with fitting everything as long as I wanted to be actually at the event. My wife came with me because she also rides, and she wasn't going to miss it.
So after attending Bike Week for the first time, what were your thoughts?
Great. There's no two ways about it. It was a wonderful event. One of the highlights was getting to ride Victories and Indians whilst I was there, and that was really good.
Now, what bikes were you able to ride that you haven't ridden before, and your impressions?
I took the Gunner out. I'd never ridden that before, and it rides well. I must admit, I would still call it a Vegas Gunner. So that's what it should have been marketed as.
You know, that's a really good point. Now, let me note here that this is a Vegas here we're standing in front of. This is one of Best Buy's bikes that they had in inventory. This is not yours. You said it was very similar.
Very similar to mine.
Okay. Now, having spent so many years on your Vegas, how would you compare it to the Gunner?
I think that my Vegas is a little more twitchy at the front end because it has a narrower, thinner tire. It takes a little bit more control. I like it. I wouldn't really want to change it. My wife rides, at present she is riding a V-Star XVS 950, and it feels a little bit more like that. She would have liked a Victory, but due to the European legislation on how you can progress to a larger size motorcycle, she had to have something of a smaller engine capacity, and it's actually then additionally been edged back on its performance so that it doesn't have as much power as a standard motorbike.
Well, again, I don't mean to interrupt you there, but tell me, how does it work in Europe with the licensing? I mean, do you have to start small and work your way up, or what are the rules?
They're still changing. However, you would normally take your test on a 500 or a 125cc motorcycle. If you take it on a 500, then when you've passed, you can ride anything you like. Doesn't matter how big it is, how much power it has, but if you take it on a 125, it has to be restricted to 11 kilowatts. I don't know what that is in horsepower, unfortunately. That means that you tend to have a 600cc motorcycle, or if it's larger, then it's restricted down in power, and she went for a 950 and the power was restricted. After 2 years, they assume you've got enough experience with it that the restriction comes off of the bike, and then you can again ride whatever you like.
So it's not tied to mileage or experience or classes, it's just tied to how long you own the bike?
Yeah, you could leave the bike in the garage for 2 years and then get on anything you like afterwards. You don't have to ride, which is a bit silly. They're changing the rules at present, and they'll continue to change, and it will become even more difficult. But it does work. The reason that my wife couldn't ride the 500cc motorbike was her legs are too short. You have to be able to put this particular 500cc on a centre stand and a side stand and touch your feet down either side of the bike, and she's too short to put both feet down. So although on a 950 she can quite happily put her feet down, on the particular 500 they wanted her to ride, she wasn't able to do it, so she had to use a 125.
Now back to your experience with the Gunner. Now I did allude to my opinion about how Victory launched the Gunner, and it just seems that, and I know that many times that I'm critical, as we all are, of how the factory should do things. It's just part of being an online armchair quarterback, but I'm just going to be honest for a moment. The Gunner looks like a great bike. The initial reviews that are coming out, it's priced well, it's very balanced, it's easy to maneuver, low seat height, a lot of positives. You know, with the fatter front tire, it rides smoother and it's easy to ride. But it's really not a bobber. And for a few weeks prior to the launch, Victory was promoting it via email and through their site that a new custom bobber was coming. What did you think after hearing all the promotions and then actually seeing what they revealed?
It certainly wasn't a bobber. For marketing, I think they really messed up. They could have promoted it better. There was a lot of hype for something that was a similar bike to what they already had, and they perhaps tried to take it too far.
Now, if you were shopping today for you, and let's say you like both the Vegas and the Gunner, which one would you buy?
I'd buy the Vegas. If I was buying first time round, I would consider the Gunner, but the Vegas has a little more style to it, I think. The Gunner is a little plainer. It's supposed to be a bobber, and they haven't quite achieved what they were trying to do.
And you know, it's funny, as I alluded to early in the video, we both agree that Victory should have called the Gunner the Vegas Gunner, because it's basically a Vegas that's been stripped down just a bit. And with the promotions that they did for the weeks that preceded the launch of the bike, they were out, you know, using words such as custom and bobber and the whole bit, and people were a bit disappointed. But once you peel back the layers of the onion a bit, and you got to take a look at the Gunner, and you realize that it's basically a redressed Vegas, or stripped down Vegas, whatever you want to call it. It's getting pretty good reviews, and it appears to be a nice bike, and some of the complaints that some people have had about the skinnier front tire have been addressed. I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a very quick commercial break. We hope you stick around for that. But when we get back, let's talk about the difference of what you've seen between dealers in Europe and dealers here in the United States. How's that sound?
That sounds fine with me.
Okay, if you're watching on the VOG, we're going to go to black and be right back. If you're watching us on YouTube, just stay tuned. We'll be back after this break. Okay, we're back here on the VOG with UK Paul, who traveled all the way from Europe for this VOG Member Spotlight. Now, we were talking about dealers between the UK and the United States. I know that you visited a number of dealers over there, and you've had the opportunity to stop by a few dealers here. What's your opinion?
Generally, I feel that the dealers out here have got more product that they're able to sell and what have you. It's good. There's more additional merchandise that you can add to your bikes. One or two of the dealers in the UK are absolutely brilliant. I'd mention two in particular. One in the Birmingham area called Thunder Road. The owner knows everything about everything, and his chief mechanic knows almost as much. Additionally to that, with a very similar sounding name, is Thunder City in Leeds. They do some serious customization of some of these Victories, and they look really good. You should check them out on the internet. If you put Thunder City Motorcycles, you'll find them.
Now, do any of these dealers do rentals in case any of us are going to plan a trip to Europe? Is there a chance to rent a Victory over there?
In the UK, it's impossible to rent a Victory at the moment.
And it's not that easy here in the US either.
That's what I found. I did find somewhere where I could rent a Victory, but it was very difficult to find somewhere that had got one available for rent. However, I believe that test riding motorcycles is possibly easier in the UK. I chose my bike. It was a demonstrator bike that I'd chosen. I went to the dealership and I said, look, that's the one that I want, and when it comes to the end of its test riding days, thank you very much, I'm having it. They then turned around and said, take the keys whenever you want the keys, ride it whenever you want to ride it, take it home as long as you bring it back at night, that's all we care about. And so I put half the miles on it that were its test ride miles. Now, prior to choosing a Victory, I went to the largest European dealership in Harley-Davidson motorcycles, and their attitude when I went there, I was very serious towards probably buying a Harley-Davidson, and they said, right, take the keys of whichever bike you want, ride it, come back, take the keys of another bike and ride it. I spent 2 days doing that. It's much, much easier to test drive in the UK. However, the third day was when I approached the Victory dealership, and I had seen the bike, I thought it looked great. 2 days of riding Harley-Davidsons, I got on the Victory, and within 5 minutes I'd made my mind up. That was how easy it was to choose.
That's a great story. Now, let's go into your excellent European adventure that you did last summer. And if you haven't taken a look at it, go on the VOG, do a search on those terms, and you're going to see you put together a wonderful blog that combined not only text and great descriptions, wonderful photos, video, and it gave those of us here in the United States as well as other parts of the world a great glimpse at riding. I mean, even getting on and off ferries and trains, in the descriptions you gave. What advice would you give others who have trips coming up, who'd like to document them and be able to tell a good story along the way?
Number of things. I have a small little camera on the side of my helmet that you can probably see down here. That I had fixed to the front of the motorcycle. I didn't have it on my helmet at the time. It worked a treat. I was able to film things. There's a lot of stuff I messed up and I didn't get right. It's going to happen.
Welcome to my world.
But that was very good, and I could edit down afterwards. I took a lot of still photos as well. I researched the places I was going to beforehand. Many of them I'd visited beforehand, so I knew what I was going to actually see when I got there. I also was in the fortunate position of being able to set up 2 small video cameras, one on my bike and one on the back of my wife's bike, so it would film me and I could film her.
See, I can see that's a really important point, because if you're just using one camera and it's facing forward, all you're going to see is the rear of somebody else's bike. When you have multiple cameras, and let me tell you, and I'm sure as you'd learn, it takes a lot of computing power and a lot of time to edit together where it tells the story. But you're able to get different views and points of views of camera angles for your story. Is that a fair statement?
It worked for me. I think where I've been able to cut the 2 together, it came up so much better than just having one particular view off the front of the bike. So yes, it certainly did work for me. I
mean, I've made the mistake before. Now I went to Colorado, just had the camera pointed one way, and you know, after the first 30 seconds it gets a little boring just seeing road after road after road. You know, you need to mix it up and tell a story in there.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, I agree with that. I also added music as well, which I found made a difference. Because you just don't want the drone or the motorbike. It's great whilst you're riding, but when you're watching a video of it, you need a little more. And I tried to choose music that was appropriate.
Now, are you going to be doing another European tour this summer?
Not this year. I've come to the States instead. However, I may be going around the UK. So who knows what will come in the future. I think One of the tours I'd like to do is there is a bike fest in Ireland, and I love Ireland, and I'd like to go over and do some filming whilst I was over there.
Well, Paul, I got to tell you, it's been a pleasure meeting you. But before we leave, I wanted to do something to make you feel at home. I know you've been gone a long time, so if you would, follow me. I brought a little piece of home here for you. You ready?
Okay.
Well, Paul, I know you've been away from home for a while, and I figured, well, what better way to make you feel at home here in the U.S. by bringing a UK Aston Martin. In fact, this is a 2012 Aston Martin VOG. For 2 years in a row, Aston Martin has been named the coolest brand in the UK. That's twice. And I figure it's appropriate because you're one of the coolest guys on the VOG. How's that?
Wow, that's cool. Thanks.
But anyway, I just felt that would make you feel a little bit more at home.
Oh, it would be great. Yes, yeah. So, do I get to take it home with me?
You know, it's yours. This is a gift. This is like we get this to, you get the award for every VOG member who travels as far as you to come visit. What do you think of that?
I think that's worthwhile.
You know I'm kidding here, don't you?
I know you're kidding.
I mean, April Fool's is just around the corner.
It might not be April yet, but yeah, I know you're joking.
But I tell you one thing we can do, and that is, you want to hear what the exhaust sound like?
I'd love to hear what the exhaust sound like.
Well, we do it with bikes, so let's do it with the car. Doesn't sound like a V-twin, does it?
It certainly doesn't sound like a V-twin.
Well, it is. Just so you know, it's a V12, 5.9 or 6.0 liter. I think they say it's 6.0, but it's a 5.9 liter, 490 horsepower. I think it can cruise up to, or top speed is around 190 miles per hour. What is that, around 300 kilometers or so?
It's about that, yeah. But in the UK, we still use miles per hour.
Oh, do you?
We most certainly do.
Well, I guess those Canadians messed me up on that. I didn't realize that. See, I learned something here today. The VOG is now an educational channel.
Well, there you go. We also use gallons, but our gallons are a different volume.
Well, let me ask you this. How much longer are you in the U.S. for?
I'm only in the US for a few more days now. Now I have to go back.
Well, I just want to tell you, I know that you've been driving around this state and you got to see a lot of different things. I want to thank you so much for contacting me and taking the time to drive down here. I know you're in Central Florida and we're just in the north section of South Florida. Thank you. And it has been a pleasure meeting you, and I just want to say, ride safely, and I hope you have continued wonderful journeys.
Thanks very much, and I must admit, it's been great to meet you.
Okay, it's my pleasure. For the VOG.net, I'm the Gadget Guru, Andy Parr, and I'll see you on the road and online. Now,